This is Gwen Zile for the firm, as I recall. And I'd like to introduce Patricia Riensche and her fascinating life.
Thank you, Gwen. My life has been lived in 4 segments. I've included some photographs and background music which bring back memories of those segments. I was born Patricia Jane Mosser in Ogallala, Nebraska, a town famous for its aquifer. My mother was Ethel Lippincott Mosser, a truly hard-working woman who taught in a one-room schoolhouse and later worked as a school secretary. Best of all, she was always a very loving and comforting mother. My father was Sidney Mosser, a school principal who also worked long hours, with the result that we did not see much of him year-round. Summers were special, though, for he took time to take me to school with him. The entire school library was mine, books to explore, books to read at the school, books to check out and return. This was the thrill of my young life in Nebraska. My father learned that salaries for jobs in education in California were much higher than those in Nebraska. After some planning, we transferred west, where he continued his career, first as a teacher, with much better compensation than he had made in Nebraska, and later as a principal. The pay was even better, and we began to feel prosperous. We grew up in Arcadia and loved it. I had a few friends and was part of a loving circle. However, my father's long hours caught up with him at the tragically early age of 50, and suddenly he was gone, just as I felt I was beginning to know him. The grieving stayed with me for a long time. I also had a brother, John, who was 10 years younger than I was. I went to church every Sunday, usually to the Presbyterian Methodist or Baptist church. If we happened to be traveling on a Sunday in my town, and the town did not have one of those churches, my family would drop me off at the local church of another denomination, but I always worshipped in church somewhere on Sunday.
Pat, didn't you love school and excel in every subject?
Yes, that's true. I came by it naturally because all the adults at both my mother's and father's families were excellent educators and loved what they did. My favorite subjects were language, literature, journalism, and public speaking. This was fortuitous, for my natural skills and interests were a good match for a man who was to play an important part in my future. I also studied cello devotedly through the end of high school.
I can tell from your resume and scrapbooks that you had a vigorous work ethic and always strived to meet your commitments. Can you give us an example?
Yes, as I have said, my father died suddenly, and the family held an afternoon funeral. I had previously made a commitment to participate that same day in the evening in a speech contest for a local civic club. I couldn't decide which would honor my father better, to stay home and grieve quietly, or to make the scheduled appearance. Mother and I discussed it, and she thought keeping the commitment would be what my father would have preferred. In spite of my inner grieving, I drew on my previous preparation for the public speaking contest and concentrated on the principles and did my best.
And you won first place and a 2-day trip to Catalina, a really special prize in those days.
I went on to attend beautiful Occidental College with its well-rounded curriculum and wonderful campus. It was also near to home. I had lots of friends, especially in the journalism and drama field. Some of my happiest moments are from there, including my participation in school extracurricular activities. Although over time some of my friends have passed on, I still keep up with the others and have traveled the world with some. In my 3rd and 4th years at college, I attended several seminars for future potential teachers. I did a very special internship for future educators and was focused on teaching gifted students. And the course of the principal part of my professional life was set.
And you graduated from Occidental College as a Phi Beta Kappa. Congratulations. And your first teaching job was in scenic Monterey, California, a job that you loved. Moving on now to the second part of your life, let's talk about your courtship, marriage, and a family of your own. Beautiful Monterey is especially important to you for another reason, isn't it?
Yes. A teacher friend talked me into attending a dance and bridge mixer with the young men from a very special department of the Military Defense Advanced Language School at the Presidio near Monterey. She and I both went to the dance. I love bridge and I love to dance. We both had a great time. There I met handsome Omar Riensche, who was a Christian. We had so much in common. It didn't take long for either of us to know we were right for each other. In addition to his fine linguistic skills, which we shared in common, he had so many other wonderful qualities. He was a fine Christian, he was calm under pressure, he was a great problem solver, and he loved to construct things. These were all qualities that really appealed to me, in addition to his obvious intelligence and his accomplishments. But it was 1956, and the military was sending young men to Vietnam as trainers. And with Irvin's special skills, neither one of us could tell what the future would hold. We decided for a short courtship and a small family wedding in Monterey, April 21st, 1956. I converted to the Lutheran faith, so our new family would share that in common, and I continue in good standing to this day. In the short courtship, it was felicitous because soon after the wedding, Irvin was transferred across the country to Arlington, Virginia, to a secret posting. He was to be based there for the rest of his military service, but neither of us knew that at the time, of course. Although Irvin was suddenly gone, I still had my contract commitment. When it was done, I set out in a 13-year-old car to drive across country with my brother John. The Eisenhower Legacy Program to build the national highway system had just barely started, so this was quite an adventure. However, I was very focused on being with Irvin and establishing my first real home as a bride. I stopped briefly in Nebraska, greeted family members who could not attend the wedding, dropped off John, and then drove as many hours every day as I possibly could so I could soon be with my new husband on the East Coast. The roads I encountered were frequently rough and highway stops were few and far between, but I was used to rugged car trips across the country, as that had been our family tradition when I was a child, and I had a young bride's determination to be with Irvin again. Our home in Arlington was on the 3rd floor, and there was no elevator in the building, but housing was very hard to get, and now finally we were together. I took a job as a secretary for the Navy because I did not feel it would be right to make a commitment to teach, which would mean a contract for a whole school year at a time, without knowing where or how soon Irvin's next posting would be. In respect, what a blessing. They needed him in Washington and did not send him to Vietnam.
Tell us about your children, please.
Irvin and I were still on the 3rd floor apartment when our first child, Cynthia Louise, arrived. When she graduated to a stroller, the 2 flights of stairs with a young baby, a stroller, and packages were a daily challenge. On the other hand, one benefit I remembered fondly is the total bill for Cindy's military hospital stay at birth was $39. As she began to grow, she developed some typical first child qualities, including strong Christian values, a prevailing sense of organization, steady work habits, goal orientation, and eagerness to please. After finishing his assignments for the Army, Irvin and I planned a car trip with Cynthia back to the West Coast so he could study engineering at the University of California, Los Angeles. Together, the 3 of us established our first home in the San Gabriel Valley. We were living there when Xerox hired Irvin, and he worked for them for the rest of his career. We bought our first home in Temple City, fortuitously in an area that had Arcadia schools, just like I had attended. It was here that our second child, Jeanette Elizabeth, was born 6 years after Cynthia. Like many second children, Jeanette was more adventurous. This sometimes led her to set her own targets and to test limits. She was very smart and gifted in language skills like both her parents, and in mathematics like her father. As a family, we were always active in almost every aspect of the Lutheran Church. We attended church every Sunday, as well as many youth and family activities held by the church. The family had favorite hymns which were often sung in church, and which we sometimes sang a cappella at home, such as "A Mighty Fortress is Our God," "Onward Christian Soldiers," and "The Church's One Foundation." Both girls enjoyed the peace-oriented music of John Denver. They liked to play cello and viola together, and we also enjoyed classical music. In addition to church social events, all of us liked classical theater. The family loved orchestral concerts, and in the San Gabriel Valley in Los Angeles, there were lots of theater as well as music programs for children. We were regular attendees. We all danced with the Lutheran Square Dance Club for many years, and at one time Jimmy Carter joined the group and danced with us. Irvin and I bowled in the Lutheran Bowling League for more than 25 years. Our Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays were spent at my parents' house, which later was called Grandma Mosser's house, where John and I had grown up. We were surrounded by the people closest to us, Aunt Abigail Lippincott, Aunt Leila Mosser, and Aunt Harriet Hawes. Jackie Rowe, my closest cousin, and Roy Mitchell, my uncle. Another of our special traditions was an annual car trip home to Nebraska, where Irv and I had both been born and had family. We usually added side trips to see places of natural beauty, such as national parks. We enjoyed being together at home and in the car. The family worked together in civic work of many kinds, of which Civitan International was the highlight. All of the family worked on the Civitan programs for the Special Olympics for many years. Irv was elected California State Governor for 1988-1989. What a whirlwind year that was. Irv's duties and ceremonies took us all over California and to Alabama. Also, we spent more than a week in Hamburg at an international Civitan conference and spent 4 more exciting weeks traveling all over Europe by Eurorail.
Also, you and Irv loved crossword puzzles all your married lives, and you were both life masters in bridge, weren't you?
Yes.
Tell us about the family values you and Irvin worked out for the girls to develop, please.
The qualities Irvin most wanted the girls to develop were steadfastness in their Christian faith, honesty, and the character to stand up for what they knew to be right. The qualities I thought were important for the girls to develop as young people and later to have to draw on as women and mothers were the importance of a family, an understanding of our family values, supporting those values in each other as sisters, and accepting other people and their own values.
Tell us about your professional lives, please.
Irvin continued to work at Xerox in a variety of computer engineering assignments. Meanwhile, I taught gifted children, nearly 1,000 of them, in the superb South Pasadena schools over 25 years. I loved teaching, and moreover, I loved my very special students. I had a wonderful time because they loved me too. Further, I always saw new approaches to challenge and teach young people.
Tell us about your daughters and their families.
Our first daughter, Cynthia, married John Klein in her late teens and has one daughter, Victoria, or Tori, who is planning an autumn wedding this year. Our second daughter, Jeanette, knew from an early age that she wanted to be a career woman. She completed college and law school and today practices law in Philadelphia. She is married to Stefan Viala, and they have 2 young daughters, Camille Juliet, 10, and Elise Patricia, 8. The young girls both have busy school schedules, and Cammie is a cheerleader. Elise studies karate.
Let's turn now to the third stage of your life, retirement. You said that after your girls were grown and out of the house, the next phase of your life began with planning for your retirements.
Yes, there were big changes. Irvin left Xerox at 60 after more than 26 years of service. I left teaching young people after 26 years of service. We sold our home in Temple City and moved to a lovely gated community in Palm Desert. Together we were planning for the retirement Irvin and I had agreed on. More time to play bridge, meeting new church and bridge circles, a lifelong pleasure we shared together. Enjoying the dry heat and cleaner air, and Irv looked forward to starting a new Civitan club in our new community.
However, fate intervened in a cruel and unexpected way. 7 months after your move, your husband died without warning.
Yes. Suddenly, this phase of my life was widowhood and a new community. I will say it was an active widowhood. My friend from college, Barbara Nichols, and I took a cruise up the Yangtze River in China. We were fascinated by much of the country few Westerners had seen before. Aside from that, in the early years, most of my days and evenings were filled with teaching bridge to adults who were also new to the desert community and avid to learn the game. But still, it was life in a new place. Without Irvin for the first time since our marriage in 1956, with both my children and their families much farther away, and an unforeseen need to develop new friendships on my own. This was the retirement neither Irv nor I had planned.
Weren't you awarded the prestigious honor of the Bridge Gold Life Master in 2010? That must have brought further acclaim and increased demand for your skills as a bridge teacher.
Yes, it did. In fact, I began to accept travel teaching assignments. Bridge cruises were popular, and some of my bridge-playing women friends traveled with me. These friends and I saw many parts of the world I had not previously expected to see. Jane Patchett and I went on several bridge cruises to different parts of the world. Marilyn Hahn and I took a number of cruises. The most spectacular was an 88-day around-the-world cruise.
That was actually longer than Phineas Fogg's trip in Jules Verne's famous book. And tell me about that handsome Omar Sharif.
Well, yes, I played against him in a tournament. It was an honor, and you know I love to play bridge almost any time. So even though I was grieving for Irvin, those 21 years passed relatively quickly in retrospect.
And next, you were on to this part of your life, living for others.
During the latter part of my retirement years, I had some time to think about the previous parts of my life and what God might want me to do with the rest of it. A number of questions about why things happened the way they did, for which the answers have been unknown to me, were now less important. I decided to live for God by living to serve other people. I also knew it was time to be available to my children and grandchildren. After doing my research, I chose Atria Rancho Park. After becoming settled in, I chose to serve as an ambassador among the Atria guests. I also took up the ukulele, which I had played before, and other guests at Atria sometimes asked me to play. There are sometimes opportunities for me to help others here learn to adjust, and I'm frequently asked to play various kinds of card games, but for a change, not bridge. In closing, I'm thankful to God for the many blessings throughout my life, including my faith, which has carried me through unforeseen problems, my long marriage to Irvin, my 2 wonderful daughters, and the beautiful, loving mothers and productive people they have become. Their loving and supportive spouses, my wonderful granddaughters, Tori, Camille, and Elise, and the promise they bring for the world, and teaching, my lifelong fulfilling work, 26 years with young people and 21 more years with adults.
Congratulations, Patricia.
We did it.